The Rangers snapped their losing streak, but lose Jacob deGrom in the process. On today's show, we're talking about the latest with Jacob deGrom's injury and why the Rangers are actually going to be just fine, even if he does miss time. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Unless you're commenting about you predicting this Jacob deGrom injury, or you're a Mets fan celebrating that your team didn't sign Jacob deGrom. In that case, keep that crap to yourself. The Rangers snapped their 4-game losing streak, the longest losing streak of the season, with their ace on the hill. He did his job. The Rangers got the 5-2 win, and before he left this game, Jacob deGrom was his usual Jacob deGrom dominant self. He left this one with forearm tightness. Bruce Bochy said afterwards that it is precautionary. We will see how long he is out, but this necessitates an update on the deGrom meter. We are at deGrom 3, the most medium level of deGrom preparedness. It is increase in force readiness above that required for normal readiness. In case you are new to the show, we are introducing this graphic right here if you're watching on YouTube, or you can look at my Twitter. It is called Roundhouse. That is the exercise term for DEFCON 3 and also deGrom 3, just mimicking what the Army does for nuclear preparedness, because that's what it feels like every time Jacob deGrom is on the hill, or every time he leaves a game early. It's like, oh gosh, everything is going nuclear. The world's going to end. Everything is just on fire. Let's all just freak out. And you know what? I had a lot of people telling me I needed to move it up a level, move it up to deGrom 2, which is higher. The lower numbers are the worst level of deGromedness, but we're straight at 3. And I did that before we knew exactly what it was. It was an undisclosed injury. He looked fine. Everything looked fine. He had allowed a walk in that inning that I don't even think was actually should have been a walk. The ball 4 was in the strike zone fully. I don't know what the home plate umpire was doing. It's not super great. Not that Jacob deGrom needs a whole lot of help, but that was his one walk in this one. Then he allowed a single to Willie Calhoun. Those are the only base runners that he had. He left after 3 2/3 innings, just 1 hit, 1 walk, and just 2 strikeouts, which for Jacob deGrom in 3 2/3 innings, that's not a whole lot. He was getting a lot of early contact. It looked like he was going to be able to go pretty deep into this one. He only threw 50 pitches through 3 2/3 innings, and you thought, okay, well, he's going to be able to go pretty darn deep into this one. Only threw 80 pitches in the last game because he was going on short rest. This was normal rest, I should say, not short rest. The Rangers would not do that to Jacob deGrom, but this is kind of the deal with Jacob deGrom. And you know what? I'm not all that worried. And I see a lot of people that are bemoaning every time he leaves a game early. By the way, for the season, he's averaged 5 starts. He's pitched in 6 games, averaged 5 innings per start, for a guy who has not eclipsed 100 pitches in any of his starts. He's still averaging 5 innings per start. He still has an ERA that leads the starter. Actually, not quite. Martin Perez is a little bit lower than him. He has a 2.67 ERA, 30 1/3 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts, just 4 walks, 2 home runs, and 19 hits. A hits per 9 of 5.6, just 1.2 walks per 9, and 13.4 strikeouts per 9, which went down after this outing, which is absolutely insane. But this was always going to be the deal with Jacob deGrom. As much as I have, been unwavering in my optimism and my excitement and tweeting Jacob deGrom as a Texas Ranger usually in the first inning of every start, because every first inning has been absolutely immaculate for him, even in the bad starts, which there really haven't been any bad starts. There's just been starts that he left, which made us feel bad afterwards. But you always knew this was going to be the deal with Jacob deGrom, and that's okay. The Rangers spent 5 years, $185 million on this guy for a reason. And at the time, I said this is going to be a guy who you're going to have to watch out for. Yes, he does have injury concerns. I thought they were a little bit overblown. Turns out maybe they weren't. Maybe the Rangers are going to be in for this almost every single start. And you know what? If that's the case, then I still say it's worth it. I said it at the time. If he's only giving you 100 innings per season, but if he's healthy at the end of the season, that's what it's all about. You've got to make it in this league, to go for the rebuild the Rangers are trying to go for, to go from 100 losses to making the playoffs in 2 years. 100 losses to 94 losses to making the playoffs this year, which is what their hope is. You've got to take some huge swings, and it's a lot easier to sit back there and not hope for anything. I myself, I'm a pretty belligerent optimist, I like to believe at this point, and that's why I was so hopeful on Jacob deGrom. And for years and years and years, us Rangers fans, we've been very beaten down and broken and depressed, honestly, watching this team and watching starting pitching be mediocre. And we had Nolan Ryan, and he was the best thing ever. He was fine. He was pretty good. He was not by any means at the peak of his career when he was here. Yu Darvish, and we didn't even appreciate him really in his peak while he was here in Texas. And it's been so long since the Rangers have had someone this good, and just seeing what it's like to have a true ace on the mound, and remembering what it's like in those dark ages to not have one. I mean, how can you not want to hope? Yeah, it's scary sometimes, to whether you're, whether it's in relation to, signing a big ace pitcher, or whether you're, trying something new, whether it's a career or relationship or a new passion project. It can be really scary to put yourself out there, and, it might fail. It might blow up in your face. It might hurt really bad when whatever that thing is, whether it's Jacob deGrom or whatever good thing that you're trying that's scary, ends. If it ends not the right way. But isn't it so much better to actually try? I think so. I think it's much better to go and sign a Jacob deGrom when these other teams wouldn't spend even 4 years, it seems like. Why wouldn't you go 5? I mean, and maybe it works out. Maybe this is just another precautionary thing. Maybe every other start he only goes 5 innings, and because they're taking care of him, he is able to pitch the entire season, and then the Rangers do end up making the postseason, and they have Jacob deGrom in his full Jacob deGrom glory, going out there and throwing these incredible starts, like the one he had against Oakland when he went 6 innings and just 1 earned run and 11 strikeouts, or against Baltimore, just 1 earned run in 6 innings and 11 strikeouts in that one as well, or 7 innings and 9 strikeouts and 2 earned runs against Kansas City. Like that's the kind of stuff that deGrom does. That is who he is. And for me, I am just so sick of the people who are just so beaten down and broken that they aren't willing to give themselves a little bit of hope in letting Jacob deGrom go out there and not having to worry and losing their minds every time everything doesn't go perfectly right. It might be a while before he's back on the hill, but the crazy part is the Rangers don't need him. The Rangers are going to be just okay without him. Coming up, we're going to talk about why that is, what the timetable for his return might look like, some early speculation without a whole lot of details. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong experience, and it's especially since we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't really know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk things through. I'm in therapy, and it's helping me, get this perspective on things like Jacob deGrom or whatever else is going on in my life, to kind of have that barometer for where everything feels. If you're thinking about starting therapy, then you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime with no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonMLB. Now, the Rangers are probably going to be just fine without Jacob deGrom. In case you didn't know, they are still atop the American League West. This was from Evan Grant had a theory about what the Rangers might do with deGrom. The Rangers do have 2 off days next week, so they could just skip 1 start, push him back, give him 10 days of rest until May 9th in Seattle. I think that could be the right move for him if it's just precautionary. Again, it's forearm tightness. It could be anything related to the wrist. And the wild thing was we didn't really see it coming. He looked just fine. He looked absolutely incredible in that start, and it was just out of nowhere that he comes out at a friend that was at the game. He texted me just like, what the heck happened? He shot a video on his phone, like literally, I think maybe the batter before he ended up coming out, he's like, did my camera on my phone end up hurting him? And we don't really know what happened at this point, but again, it's all precautionary. The Rangers are going to be extra cautious. They were extra cautious in spring training with him because he is their ace, and while it's amazing to have an ace, when they went out and spent what they did on starting pitching this free agency period, they didn't really need him. The depth of this starting rotation is fantastic. One of the things that I believe it was Bruce Bochy was talking about before this game was, you're on a losing streak and you got your ace on the mound. That's got to be a good feeling. And he talked about saying, this entire starting rotation is full of guys who could stop a losing streak. They're all quality guys who are veteran big leaguers who know how to go out there and give your team a chance to win every day. It's such a cliched thing, but when you have a starting rotation full of grown freaking adults 1 through 5 like the Rangers do, they even had 1 through 6 before the Jake Odorizzi injury, which is really, really hurting right about now. If you had Jake Odorizzi, you'd feel a little bit better about one of these guys going down, because not all of them are going to make 30 starts this season. As much as I would love for deGrom and Eovaldi and Perez and Gray and Heaney to all make 30 starts this year, that's not something that really happens that much with any rotation, let alone one with the injury concerns of these guys in their career. But the Rangers are going to be just fine because they do have some depth there. Glenn Otto was one of the guys who I thought might be in line for the rotation, but it seems like we kind of know. If the Rangers skip a start for Jacob deGrom, the Rangers know who they're going to throw out there to start for him. It's going to be the guy who's been one of the most effective relievers in their pen. It's Dane Dunning. It's who they threw out there in this one. It's who they threw out there when Jacob deGrom came out of his start against Kansas City. It's who they're going with. And he has been really, really good this year. In a pinch, out of nowhere, he comes in, throws 3 1/3 innings of work, doesn't walk anybody, does allow a couple of runs, but gets the Rangers through this one. The Rangers gave him a 5-run lead, or they gave, I guess, deGrom a 5-run lead. So once the Rangers had that, you thought, okay, well, you got Jacob deGrom on the hill, you got a 5-run lead. This is not going to be a game that the Rangers let slip away. I know the pen has kind of let things go in the past, but it's not something that the Rangers are going to let themselves lose, and not something that Robbie Grossman was going to let himself lose. I got to give a shout out to Robbie Grossman, who has been crushing it as of late, and he has his 3rd home run of the season. He had 3 hits. All of them were extra base hits, a pair of RBI, a pair of runs. Robbie Grossman has 3 home runs on the season, and all of them have come in Jacob deGrom starts. All of them have been multi-run home runs. I believe 3-run, and now a lowly 2-run home run. He made up for that by adding a pair of doubles in this one. But the last 7 games, he has been absolutely on fire. A pair of home runs, 3 walks to just 4 strikeouts, hitting .400 and on base of .448 and slugging .720. That's Robbie Grossman. Remember the guy who I complained the most about and thought, hey, this guy's fine. He's fine. He's the Rangers DH right now, and he is deserving to be that DH. He is crushing it as of late. The Rangers have a good lineup. They have a deep lineup, and that's another one of the reasons that, Jacob deGrom is the added luxury, the cherry on top that kind of puts you over the edge when you're talking about the championship, but championship pieces. But like, when it comes to just competing in this regular season, which the Rangers are doing a really freaking good job of, remember, the Texas Rangers are alone atop the AL West right now at 15-11. The Astros lost last night on Apple TV to a brilliant gem spun by Aaron Nola. I believe 8 innings of 1-run ball against those Astros in Houston, a rematch of the World Series. Hopefully the Phillies, who are figuring it out, can take a few more from those Astros, and the Rangers can continue to build a little bit of ground. I believe they have a one-game difference heading into the Saturday slate of games. But this Texas Rangers team is doing really, really well. The offense is incredibly deep. They have several guys. I believe it was, where we go? Yeah, Jared Sandler tweeted this out today. The Rangers have 8 players with an OPS plus over 100. Remember, 100 is league average OPS. They have Jonah Heim at 150, Marcus Semien at 139, Travis Jankowski at 134, Adolis Garcia 132, Josh Young at 120, Nathaniel Lowe at 111, Robbie Grossman 106, Ezek Duran at 104. That's not even counting Corey Seager, who's on the IL with an OPS plus of 184. He's coming back hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It seems like it'll be at a minimum, but the Rangers are more than treading water with him on the IL. Duran had another solid game. He's got an OPS of 728. He is absolutely stinging the baseballs. Would still like to see him walk just a little bit more. Same with Adolis Garcia. Nice to see him putting up some fantastic numbers. But this lineup is deep. The starting rotation is deep, and the bullpen really came through in this one. The Rangers needed a bounce back game from their bullpen, and they got it. And I want to give a shout out to the guys who pitched in that one, and a little bit more of a look at the guys who came back from those injuries and were able to help out just a smidge in this Rangers streak-ending win. But first, this episode is brought to you by SoRare. Our new sponsor, SoRare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, SoRare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there is no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. SoRare recently partnered with MLB All-Stars Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in SoRare's current brand campaign and will engage with the SoRare community throughout the season at MLB events. Head to SoRare.com/lockedon, that's spelled SORARE.com, to draft your team of free players, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's SoRare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Now, the Rangers bullpen really stepped up in this one. It had been a rough week for this bullpen for pretty much everyone in this bullpen. Even Dane Dunning had his first rough outing. He's allowed runs in back-to-back starts, or outings, I should say. He has not started a game yet. He probably will end up doing so at some point. But he stepped up big in a pinch. It's hard for anybody. The long reliever role is one of the hardest in baseball, and the Rangers have two guys who for the most part have done a pretty good job. It's been a little rough for Cole Reagans, who again, if we're talking about guys who are going to have to step up and make a start for somebody in a pinch, I think Cole Reagans I would put as the number 7 starter in this rotation, which I know there's only 5, but when you have guys who have the injury history they have, and even John Gray is been a little shaky in his last couple of starts since coming back from taking that liner off the forearm. Hopefully the Rangers won't have to have more than one guy miss starts, because it looks like deGrom might end up missing a start. We honestly don't know at this point, but I got to give a shout out to Jonathan Hernandez, who coming off his last outing where he allowed a walk-off home run, his first of the season, just a nice, terrible exclamation mark on the poop sandwich that was that series in Cincinnati. He comes out in this one in a big way, gets the Rangers through that 8th inning without much drama against the top of that Yankees lineup. Then in comes Will Smith. Absolutely no drama, absolutely no base runners. Gets that ERA down below 2 again. Solid outing from both of those guys. And Dane Dunning, Jonathan Hernandez, and Will Smith, all of them coming in to the rescue to end that losing streak. The Rangers didn't have to use all of their guys in the pen, and that was really nice. Literally only 3 relievers. When your starter goes out before the 4th inning is over, and you only use 3 relievers, and you get the win, that is a really good day from the bullpen, and a huge testament to why Dane Dunning is so important. But the rest of this rotation, like I said, I mean, they're all going out there every day with a chance to get you the win. That is the strength of this team right now, not to mention the depth of the lineup. I mean, it's just high time that people start believing the Texas Rangers are a really good baseball team. Yeah, Jacob deGrom injury would be really upsetting, especially if it's, months or who knows at this point. Honestly, nobody knows how long he's going to be out. All the language has been kind of precautionary. Hey, we're going to be chill. We're going to, just take a deep breath. We're not going to lose our freaking minds and give ourselves an aneurysm before we even know what's really happening with deGrom. We're not going to do that just yet. And I appreciate Bruce Bochy's calmness and his demeanor, and having someone who is a veteran such as himself, who knows how to kind of, maybe it's just his voice is so incredibly deep, and he's very tall and very big, that maybe is what makes him so reassuring. I don't know, but listening to Bruce Bochy in the aftermath of last night, talking about how good it was to get a win, and it kind of keeping this team focused. I tweeted out after the game that the Rangers won, Astros lost, Rangers are back on top of the AL West, and someone was like, cool, well, at least we have that. Well, that's all we have. That's the whole point. It's you got to refocus your mind. This is a good Rangers baseball team. It's not like teams in the past few years where it's like, oh, well, if the star player is hurt, then I have no reason to watch. This team sucks and I don't really care. No. The Rangers are in first place atop the AL West. They don't have the second best record or run differential in all of the American League anymore, but they are still a winning baseball team. They are still competing, and they are still very much in it. It is early in the season, but this is a deep team with a deep lineup. Like I just said, so many of those guys being above average offensive players, so many of their starters all going out there and giving you a chance to not get just run out of the game. That was the problem with this Rangers team last year. The offense was better. People didn't see it because they were losing so many games. Because, outside of games started by Martin Perez or John Gray or Dane Dunning at home, Dane Dunning on the road still does not have a winning decision. Actually, I know that he didn't start in that game against Kansas City, where he came in out of the bullpen, but I think that might have been Dane Dunning's first road win. There was a whole storyline with him last year. He was just still had not had a road winning decision with the Texas Rangers. I think that game where he came in for Jacob deGrom when he had the no-hitter going in Kansas City, I think that might have been his first winning decision on the road as a Texas Ranger. It was just a fun little thing. He still hasn't had it in a start yet, and maybe he'll have a start where he goes on the road and gets a win, and he will finally get that particular monkey off his back. But that was just a fun little thing that I think popped into my head. I'm not sure if that's right, but I'm pretty sure that it is. I'll have to go look it up and check for you on Monday's episode to kind of confirm that. But this Rangers team is good. I know the bullpen has its flaws. They have Bruce Bochy to come in and put these guys in the right spots at the right moments. They have pieces that are good. Will Smith is a veteran guy. He has been in the big leagues for 10 years. You don't stay in the big leagues for 10 years if you don't know how to pitch. I know he wasn't used a whole lot by the Astros last year. I think that's kind of hilarious that he had that kind of off year, but he was phenomenal with the Braves in their run to the World Series and through the World Series. He has been a very good reliever for a long time. Dane Dunning has been very effective in his role. Brock Burke is just in his second year as a reliever, kind of figuring out, is this really the real Brock Burke? I'm a believer. I know the strikeouts aren't super up this year, but he is getting some weak contact. He is not allowing guys to get on base. He's not walking guys. That is a recipe for success for a high leverage reliever. Jonathan Hernandez has got some of the nastiest stuff in this pen. I know his ERA is over 3 right now, but a random walk-off home run that felt like a will of the gods against the Rangers in losing that series in Cincinnati. I'm going to try and just forget that Cincinnati exists, honestly, at this point, because when I think about that series, it just makes me so angry. It kind of ruined a lot of things. But Josh Sborz is looking really good out of the pen as well. I think that he might be ready for some higher leverage relief situations. I know Leclerc has been much bemoaned, 7 walks in 9 2/3 innings, but remember, he does still have an ERA under 1, a sub-1 ERA for a reliever who has mostly come in some high leverage spots. Yeah, the walks are an issue, and you'd like the velocity to be up a little bit, but still, he has been an effective reliever. This pen is not as bad as we bemoaned it at the beginning of the year. It's probably not as good as it was for the first 2-3 weeks when they were just unhittable. It is somewhere in the middle. But when you have a really freaking good lineup and 5 adult humans that are above average to very good to one of them is the best pitcher in all of freaking baseball when he's on the hill, that is a recipe for a good freaking team. I know it caught us all by surprise that this team kind of did that, just jumped into from being bad to being good very quickly. And, guys like Travis Jankowski are out there and being amazing. He still has an OPS over 800. That's kind of crazy in 19 games. That's a good thing. And I think that's maybe not the most real thing in the world, but I think it's sustainable for now, and he's at least a helpful piece. But Jonah Heim continues to be a very, very good piece for the Rangers. A multi-hit game for him, a double, and he continues to be fantastic for this Texas Rangers squad. I think he might be, I thought it might be Nathaniel Lowe, and maybe it'll end up being Adolis Garcia, but the trio of those three guys in there, I think Adolis is actually 30 now, but in the 27 to 30 range, the guys who they got for basically nothing. Yeah, Lowe is 27, Jonah Heim is in his age 28 season, and Adolis Garcia is in his age 30 season. All those guys who they got for Adolis for cash considerations, Jonah Heim, they got him, and maybe a really good starting pitcher in the minor leagues, Dane Acker, for Elvis Andrus, and Nathaniel Lowe, who they got for a bunch of prospects who are in Double-A, and Lowe won a Silver Slugger as one of the best hitters in all of baseball last year at first base in the American League. Like, those are some huge wins for the Rangers, and Heim continues to be astounding. His numbers right now are, they're down from the near 1,000 OPS he had a few days ago earlier in the week, or actually about a week ago, I think. It's down to 899. Ooh, so terrible. But his expected numbers have him hitting better than what his actual numbers are, which is kind of insane. His expected batting average is at 309. He's actually hitting 286. His expected slugging, he's slugging right now, his regular slugging is 529. His expected slugging is 594. He's expected to be slugging nearly 600. That's in the top 6% of baseball. His regular WOBA, just the kind of overall encompassing offensive stat that where 300 is about average, he's got a WOBA of 387. His expected WOBA is at 420 in the top 5% of baseball. Yeah, he is not only a great defensive catcher, top 10% of framing, pop time to second base, which had been in the kind of bottom-ish quarter of baseball, is now up to the 44th percentile, which, again, at this point, I was more worried about it last year when the new rules are coming out. Okay, well, if he can't be in the top 10% of baseball, he's not going to catch anybody. Well, nobody's catching anybody stealing anyway these days. But the framing is still good. The blocking is still good. The game calling is still good. And the offense is there. We got to see him DHing in the first game of the series against one of the toughest pitchers in the American League in Garrett Cole. It was good to see his bat getting in there. I know Robbie Grossman is probably more of the everyday DH at this point, especially while Jankowski is still doing all of this. I think Jankowski's going to keep his roster spot as long as he's hitting above 300 and gotten on base above, or an OPS above 800, and still playing really good defense in left field and in center field when he's out there. But Jonah Heim, being what he is a huge benefit to the Rangers. Speaking of Travis Jankowski, it's good to have him back in the lineup. Missed a game with that hip tightness. He came out of Wednesday's game, and it was a little worrying, especially when he came out right after Josh Young, who got hit in the hand, ended up having a contusion on his hand. And we got to see him back in the lineup on Friday night. Had an 0 for day at the plate with a pair of strikeouts, but just good to see Josh Young back in the lineup. The Rangers can't really afford to lose his bat. He has also been a very effective weapon for the Rangers. The OPS is now down below 800, 793. Still a solid season for the young rookie who led all of American League rookies heading into Friday night's game in home runs, extra base hits, I believe hits as well. Just a lot of categories that he really should be getting some love for Rookie of the Year. It's probably the game where he came back and went 0 for 4 with a pair of strikeouts is not the one where I need to talk up his Rookie of the Year campaign, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. He is a very good player and part of the depth of this lineup. He's hitting 5th as a rookie, and maybe they'll end up switching him and Jonah Heim if Heim continues to do this. But, I mean, your 1 through 6 hitters are all really good hitters. And your number 7 hitter right now is Robbie Grossman. And then Ezekiel Duran is also hitting very well in the 8th slot in this lineup, and Tavares had another rough day for him. One of his strikeouts was on a pitch clock violation, so not the truest of strikeouts, but still kind of a rough day for him. But still, this Rangers lineup is deep, it is talented, and the starting rotation is good. It's time to believe that this is a good winning squad. Yes, Jacob deGrom might be missing some significant time. If you didn't believe that he would be missing some time, or maybe he won't miss significant time, we don't freaking know at this point. But there is no point in going off the rails, going off the deep end, because every fifth day so far, every fifth game so far, we have seen Jacob deGrom on the hill doing his amazing thing. And you know what? Maybe he'll be out for a while. Maybe he won't. But he is still a Texas Ranger, and that is a good thing. Don't worry about the price tag. It is not your money. It is just your money going into the pocket if you're going out there to see him on the hill in a Texas Rangers uniform, which, again, is a gorgeous sight. Hold out that hope. The Rangers will be just fine. Hopefully they can take the last 2 games of this series, come out with a series win, and head into May with a winning record atop the American League West. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll be back on Monday talking about the rest of this series. That's going to do it. Thank you all so much to the everydayers, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.